In 1991, Pat Robertson wrote a book which I brought, which is called The New World Order, talking about all these things that he predicted were going to happen in the future. And now you fast forward 30 years and we have Agenda 21. We have the Great Reset. We have Common Core. We have things. But the question is, can it actually happen here in Alabama? Is it happening in Alabama? We're 30 years in. Was Pat Robertson right or was he wrong? Welcome into this week's edition of Alabama Unfiltered. I am one of your hosts. Allison Sinclair is with me. Amy Beth Shaver is also here, and we've got a lot of things to do for you. But before that, don't forget you can always find this podcast at your regular places and at 1819news.com. We have it on audio and we have it on video. Make sure you give us a thumbs up or 5 stars, and we would greatly appreciate that. We also appreciate you spending time with us. It's interesting that one of the things that's out there being talked about, ladies, is a thing called the Great Reset. That is out there. In the past, there's been Agenda 21. And then before that, there was the New World Order. And it just happens that I had someone give me a book that I brought with me. And I thought, you know what? The pages are very yellow on this little paperback book. And I realized it was written by Pat Robertson. It's called The New World Order. And this book is from 1991.
We were babies back then.
I was kind of old, but still.
It's okay.
1991 seems so far back. And so what, 1991, George Bush Sr. was still president. Bill Clinton had never come to the White House. And it was George Bush Sr. who mentioned this phrase at one time during his presidency about the New World Order. So I started looking at this book, and the things that it talks about are things that we're seeing happening today. The causing the economy of the world to struggle. These Western powers gaining more authority. And then as I look through to this time, we've had things like Common Core, Agenda 21. And you look at what is going on in our schools, you realize they indeed have been teaching our children things, preparing for today. That's right. And it always seems like a conspiracy almost. I mean, are y'all seeing this? Is it happening in Alabama? Because I get that a lot. I remember when I was in the legislature, we'd talk about Agenda 21, and people were like, that's UN stuff. That's the stuff they do over in Europe somewhere. It's not here. We're not doing any of that here.
And it
are
is
we or are we
here.
not?
It is.
It's here.
Well, and that's really where we first met, was years ago over education. And I don't even know where we were, but we were in the midst of that same thing when Common Core was introduced. And the same people who said, you are a conspiracy theorist for believing Agenda 21. And, oh, by the way, we don't have Common Core. And then shamed you for asking questions. But because mothers do research and so do fathers, we're like, actually, we do have Common Core. And now in Alabama, we have social emotional learning. And there was a bill in the Senate that was Senate Bill 40. And it's literally straight up just brazenly entering into the lexicon, social emotional learning. It was ushered in under Care Bear Share. It sounds so nice so good.
Care Bear Share?
Not really Care Bear Share.
But before we go,
make that up?
What is social emotional
One of the
learning?
guys I listen to likes to say Care Bear Share.
Okay.
And I love it so much because it's true, because you're like, oh, that sounds so good. Who wouldn't be for that? In fact, 28-1, the senators voted, oh, yes, we're for that. Absolutely. Because this is what they do. They go, this sounds good. Aren't you for the children?
So what is social emotional learning? That is kind of, so we had critical race theory. Everybody was going CRT. I would imagine 3/4 of Americans are like, I still don't even know what CRT is. But what is social emotional learning?
Okay.
Usually it's a little more touchy-feely. That's kind of odd. It doesn't make me automatically be for it. So what is it exactly? Like, how does it work on the ground?
All right, so I found a definition because you wonder what in the world, which, by the way, you guys, I came across a social emotional learning webinar for teachers on my drive back from Atlanta early this morning, and they define it as connectivity to their students. But what we know, what it's defined as, and this is what's frightening, and I would love to know where you're seeing this too, is the social emotional learning is the cultivation, not of knowledge, but of the correct attitudes, beliefs, opinions, and behaviors. Isn't that frightening?
That's frightening.
Wait a minute. So teaching people what to believe and to have the right attitude about those things. I mean, doesn't that line up completely with critical race theory, social justice?
This is critical race theory on steroids.
Yeah, it really is. It's scary. And they're taking what is historically has been taught through family units. Of course, we've seen a total breakdown of the family. And they're putting it in the classroom. And if you look at the social emotional learning, they have like this chart that has all the little components of social emotional learning. And then around it, they have these rings of influence on the child. Okay. And the very first ring that's closest to the child is the school.
Closer than the family.
The classroom. And then it goes to the administrators. And then the last ring is the family. And that's basically what they're doing. They are trying to indoctrinate and tell our kids how to feel, how to handle conflict, what you should think about other people, and they are totally taking it out of the home. And it's frightening.
They are taking it out of the home, and what they're doing essentially, and this is straight from these educators I listened to this morning. It was a math teacher, it was a teacher of the year from Virginia, it was another teacher of the year from, I don't even know what state, it was like 4 a.m., okay? A guy from California who ran Yay Math was one of the speakers, and it's in every single discipline. And what it is doing is essentially teachers who do not have a degree in psychology, who do not have a degree in clinical counseling, who do not even have their PhD, or they're not even psychiatrists, are conducting sociological experiments in every single subject every day, all day long, from K to 12 and beyond. And they're indoctrinating our children. Here's a question.
Wouldn't you really think it was more like they already know? They're not really experimenting. They know what the outcome of this is. They're running they've already, like, you know what I'm saying? They've already figured out what's going to happen, but they're just doing what they're supposed to get this outcome. So it's really not an experiment. It's an experiment. They absolutely are reprogramming.
Yes, to collect data. That's what they want. A lot of times there are these online diaries. This is happening in Mountain Brook right now. There's an online diary where you go in and you have questions for the day. You know, one might be, my best friend thinks of me as so-and-so, or it makes me uncomfortable when my parents do this. And they are collecting all this information. And with social emotional learning, it's like having a group therapy session in math class, because then you go back and you share with the class and you talk about your feelings and you do all these things. And that is not
so
the
how
place.
How are they selling it, at least with Common Core, which you know, they had their ways of saying, okay, oh no, this is going to bring all the military families will be on the same page. And of course, you know, the Huntsville area was all about, oh, we're for the military families. We got to be for this. It's great. And the business community is like, oh, we can move our employees from here to there willy nilly, and everybody will be on the same page at the same time, no matter where they are in the country. Doesn't that make sense? At least they tried to sell it in some other way, but it sounds like we're beyond the selling it thing now. Now it's just full out, hey, we're for this reprogramming of your kids, and we'll just go ahead and tell you what it is. We'll call it a terrible name, social emotional learning, and you're going to like it. And our legislators are, sure, give it to us.
That's right.
They didn't learn anything from Common Core?
No, they didn't, which, by the way, could we back up? And under Common Core, we understand that it's interesting because it ties to a picture of something that's much greater, much deeper, much scarier, which is the Great Reset. But Common Core started around 2007 in California, and it was funded by one Bill Gates. And like you said, they were like, oh, no, we all want to be on the same page. So let's get on the same page. But isn't that what the SAT and ACT is for? Like, don't you cut it? Isn't that the testing that you need that everybody has to take
Shouldn't
if you want to go beyond?
Shouldn't we be on the same page at the end of the curriculum?
We already were on the same page. So we're inventing a new way of testing. The achievement gap between children widened under Common Core. Now you look at our test scores, and they're dropping. Some would like to blame it on at-home learning during the pandemic. Fine, I can understand that, but we're still dropping. So now we have invented and ushered in social emotional learning. Our senators voted for it 28-1 because it sounded good. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? But what they're doing is collecting data on our kids. So we're in math class, and they're asking questions like, how does it make you feel when your mom tells you thus and so? Or how does it feel in 7th grade to become a woman? I mean, like, they're really asking invasive questions. Or does your family have an electric car? we're going to talk about carbon because it's all about carbon.
Right.
And do you have a car? And if so, what kind do you have? And is it electric? Oh, you're so good. But the problem is they're being made to share these answers in public. So the goal is to conform to what everybody else is saying.
Right, which is the
There's a
whole.
peer
What was the word? Everybody used to use it. The Hegel method. Or
Yes,
What was
yes.
it? What was that
What is
word?
that?
I can't
The
believe. I can't.
Hegelian method?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, where there's the pressure involved, and
Yes.
we're going to work it out in the group, and we're going to figure out what the group wants.
That's
Except
right.
I'm running the group, and I'm going to shame you if you disagree.
That's
So
right.
don't all of y'all agree with me, and these people are pariahs, and then y'all give in. I mean, it is unbelievable what we are doing, and we just don't learn the lessons. And I was talking earlier today, and I was trying to point out that so many of these things start out as, well, that makes perfect sense. We're for that. Who wouldn't be for that? And I was thinking back to when I was in high school. The big deal was, are you up on current events? Don't we want to quit reading all these old stodgy books, and let's have kids. We want them to read, but let them read current events. They'll know what's going on in the world, and they'll be up to speed. And all of us, I was a kid then, but I'll say all of us as parents are like, yeah, that's a great idea. We want our children to know what's going on. We want them to read the news. Don't you want them to read the newspaper? All that kind of stuff. But now looking back, I realized that my classes, my teachers who were for that, made me read leftist propaganda. I was reading magazines that were clearly to the left, to the point that one of my teachers, who I love the guy, called me and another friend of mine who were conservative, before we even really kind of knew what that was, other than we loved Ronald Reagan.
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. We liked Reagan and Moses. They were contemporaries. And I mean, he would say, hey, y'all are the Hitler Youth.
What?
But see, we didn't know that was something terrible. But think about going into the future. So half the class became kind of leftist. They became leftists in college, and they were left. So now they're adults.
Wow.
And when they think of the conservatives, going all the way back
of
from
you.
1980 something, they think of me. But when somebody says, "Oh, those people are they're Nazis," those people are perfectly comfortable with that because way back 30, 40 years ago, they heard joking around, "Oh, the people like Ronald Reagan, they're the Nazis." You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So all those little seeds that were planted in little kids' heads are now full-grown adults, and they don't have a problem with so many of these things. They were taught early. So all these things that we think, oh, well, that makes sense. That sounds good. Sure, let's do that.
Yeah.
They knew when they started. People on the left knew when they started what they were going to do, just like they knew what they were going to do when they rolled out Common Core.
Yes, they did.
We're going to have these wonderful standards. Are you against standards? Like y'all said, are y'all against children?
Right.
Who's against children? Oh, and we have all these little children that have really emotional problems. Well, maybe it's because you told them that they evolved from scum and they have no reason to live and there is no God and who is right and who's wrong. It's the law of the jungle. Maybe that's why they've got emotional issues. Oh, no. We'll have this social emotional learning.
Well,
and
that's
we'll
the
work it all
MO
out.
of the Great Reset. That's the MO of social emotional learning. It's like they create the problem and then they want to swoop in and fix the problem. So and when you were talking about how do they pitch this to make it palatable to our senators or whoever, well, they pitch it and that this will catch a lot of the high risk kids, the high risk that maybe have family problems. Okay, who doesn't have a family problem?
And shouldn't you want to help the poor?
Right,
or the
right. And don't you
downtrodden?
want to help those
Right.
kids? I mean,
Yes.
suicides are on the rise, depression
Yes.
is on the rise, all these kids with eating disorders and anxiety and all this. And so they pitch it as that will help us. But they've created this problem.
Yes, they have.
Through the pandemic, and it's really just intensified. So now, hey, let us come in and we're going to fix it. And that's just not what it is. For some of these kids, school is their only escape from some really horrible situations where they can go to school and just be a kid
Right.
and be one in the classroom and connect with their teacher. And now it's like we're going to go to psychology class all day. And it's really, really dangerous. And not that kids don't need help. I'm all for that. But this is, again, just perpetuating, like, where you're always thinking about how bad your life is. It just carries on this victim mentality. And our kids have enough stress. It's like they just need a break from all that. And you're putting teachers...
I never thought of it that way, is that school is actually a place where some kids can get away from their reality. Maybe they have a bad situation at home or whatever. And so now they're in a situation where they may be in a bad place at home. They go on social media and everybody's super happy and eating the greatest stuff and on the greatest vacations and have everything that's great and wonderful, and I'm pitiful. So then you got that. So now we're going to be at school talking about how pitiful we are and probably how oppressed we are and how we don't have a chance. And, and this is going to make things better apparently. So the Alabama senators, why do they vote for it? Do they not know what's in it?
No.
Or did they get what always happens to us, and we've talked about it on the show here? Hey, if y'all were good people, y'all would be for this.
Is that what they say? Because we want to know.
I don't know. Like? That's just what I'm kind of thinking. That's kind of how it works out. Now, a lot of legislators just do what some special interest tells them because they don't have any idea what's in the legislation. And they really have this aversion. It's a brilliant strategy, actually. They have this aversion to, well, I'm not one of those people who believes in conspiracy theories. I don't believe in that crazy stuff. So they will literally go and crouch on the other side to make sure that they don't sound like the crazies. That happens a lot. Wow. But I think of Agenda 21 that we were told did not exist, no such thing, to the point that you could look it up on your computer, go to the UN's website, show them the page where it's saying that in those words. And I've had, look, legislators in my office, here it is. That's not real. I'm like, really? I promise. I'm like, I'm on the page. This is real. It's just to the point. It's amazing what they do, but they do use their goodness against them. The ones that are really nice, who want to be solid Christian people and they want to help little kids, and somebody tells them this will help. They don't want to be the person who's against that.
Right.
They don't want to be the person who doesn't care about the children. I mean,
I have an idea.
The strategy is so brilliant.
Do you have an idea why?
What's your idea?
I think we're in an election year. They're trying to get, I can't give them this pass because they seem to have a trend. But for this year, they're trying to get out early. They're meeting 3 days a week. They have all these bills coming at them. They don't have any support. I mean, when I worked with the legislature.
They could say, we're not doing them all.
Well, right. The leadership is just like flooding them, you know, and we have terrible leadership in Montgomery. I mean, my goodness, it's awful. Anyway, so I think so many things are coming at them so quickly. I really don't think they really know what they're voting for. And I think they get a bill that says, hey, we're going to catch at-risk kids. And they're like, check, you know, they don't, I don't even know how it would be possible for them to actually read every single bill. And so what's happening is a lot of these things that we're getting passed, it's so hard to go back and repeal them. And once this is done, and it's just going to be their lack of
well, I know that
commitment
happens.
to the actual
it absolutely
process.
happens that you vote on things that you don't know what's in them. I mean, there were times when we would have to rebel. Me and some of the other crazies would have to say, look, you know what, guys? Y'all aren't going to get to vote on anything. We're going to take at least an hour on every bill, and we've got people assigned, and we're not going to try to shut it all down, but we're going slow. And leadership would go insane.
Do you know?
Because they had something they want to get through really fast and don't let anybody look.
Well, the one person, shout out to Sam Gavan, because he is the one that voted no. And on another bill, I can't remember which one it was, there was an article about it. And I think it was the ARPA money. He voted no on that. And his comments in the article were, if I don't understand the bill and I don't know what's in it and I haven't had time to study it, I'm voting no. That's the way it should be. Because you know what? I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, maybe we need to get them more support. I don't know. Maybe we should volunteer to read the bills for them.
There's a couple of different things. When I was the rules chairman for that short amount of time before they decided that was intolerable, we had 24 hours notice. These are what the bills are going to be, and we're not going to add anything to it. And we kept the list short, so people had a chance to know what they were voting on. And that you would have thought the world had turned upside down doing that. And one day I was working on another piece of legislation, and someone else was running the show out front, and somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Senator, they're on like their 40th bill," and I'm like, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
And so go out there to try to slow it down, shut it down, the whole 9 yards, and I'm the bad guy.
Of course you are.
Because everybody,
you wanna do it right.
Because everybody's passing their thing. Hey, what about mine? What about mine? What about mine? And they're just blowing through. So one of the people that was kind of bowing up on me about it, I said, okay, tell me about this bill right here. Do you know it does this, this, and this? Blank stare.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I said, well,
Right.
it's on its way to being a law, thanks to y'all all taking your little turns and passing all your stuff. I mean, those are the kind of things that happen. And unfortunately, we see campaigns that says, okay, well, Senator Shaver, she didn't pass a bunch of bills, and people are like, oh,
Right.
she did nothing. I'm fine.
Right.
I'm for the person that didn't pass a bunch of bills. Can we just
right.
stop? We have enough.
That's right.
So now in the state of Alabama, we're fully engaging 28-1
Yes.
in pieces and parts that are part of the Great Reset, how to make sure people our kids are fully indoctrinated
Right.
to the things that they want them to know.
Well, also, can you imagine if you, as a legislator and a senator, were pressured to pass bills? Can you imagine what it's like to be a kid, to be pressured to agree with your students, with your
wow.
friends? Can you even imagine? On deep issues that you have no idea what you're answering when they ask you very invasive questions? Can you imagine what that must be like? So, of course, you're going to go along with the crowd. Now, with this SB 40, what was so interesting about it was that they want to have counselors that will go in, and not only do we have this in our education system, but now we're furthering it with counseling that we're offering to students in addition to all the other things that they're doing. So they really are turning every single school into a learning lab for data collection, and it's diabolical. So the most innocuous answer is they didn't have time to read it. So you're right. Maybe we form committees and we say, we'll help you read the bill, or we'll highlight it for you and we'll let you know. Here's some things we think you might need to know about. But then what's somebody that I listen to a lot, Steve Day, says, what's the most nefarious reason? Is it that you don't care? Is it that you are so pressured by your wanting to be liked or approved by your constituents that you'll do something that will ultimately, in the end, harm children, will not be able to repeal, but you wanted your seat and you wanted your approval over doing what's right?
And I would say approval of special interest, because it's
Very
usually
much
not
of
the
special
it's usually
interest.
not the citizens back home.
No, because we're for you. We want you to do well. We sent you there because we believed in you.
Right.
But when you have the special interest money, which another bill we're about to talk about that may or may not be dead, the special interest gets there. And we have to be our own special interest group. And we have to have people there that are willing to say, that's ridiculous, I'm not voting for it. There's a better way to do this, and it's not to have a learning lab with kids that are not my own, asking invasive questions that I have no right to ask. One of the guys I listened to this morning said, in a way, and this is nationally speaking because it's everywhere, is this illegal? I mean, do they have the right? Do teachers have the right? They're not degreed in this subject to ask the kind of questions they're asking, to get the kind of answers they're after. Because I don't want them to know about me and my family. You have no right. I want you to teach them. I want rigorous instruction, which that's another one of their favorite words. And everything is couched under this wet blanket of shame when we as parents come in and say, is this really what we're doing?
Right. And then they give the old thing of, well, what do you know about education?
Yes.
Well, I can just about tell you I can teach a kid to learn to read better than some of y'all.
That's right. And so,
I can teach science better than some
it's
of
back
you.
to what Allison said in the beginning. The whole deal with Common Core and not being able to help your kids with math, we got used to that idea, didn't we? Oh, it's a new math and we can't understand it anyway.
Right.
Now we have no idea what you're saying because we're talking about feelings involved with math and feelings involved with history. Who cares? It's history.
Right.
So it is designed to separate kids from their parents.
Which has been a goal
And
of all the Marxist organizations.
Maoist.
Yes, is those things. And then that brings us back to the Great Reset, the reforming of the world. And it has always seemed just preposterous, crazy. Yeah. But it's a real thing. It's not a conspiracy theory. We have these international leaders saying we're for the Great Reset.
That's right.
We have in the United States, we have Build Back Better, which I thought was a Joe Biden thing, and I just
turns out it's not.
No, it turns out it's an international thing, and you can go and look at today on my radio program. I was talking about, hey, here's something from Canada, and it says Build Back Better. Here's New Zealand, Build Back Better. Here's places in Europe, Build Back Better. They're all using the same phrase. I'm like, what is going on? How did all these people around the world decide that we're going to build back better? What are we building back better from? Is it just COVID, or we're building back better from the old Christianity-based Western civilization, nuclear family, all those things?
Yeah. It's do you want to go into that, or do you want to talk about the Parents' Choice Awards?
Well, you know what? They probably all go together, because how about let's quick do Parents' Choice Act really quickly, because it still dials into the Great Reset, because I think it all goes together.
Well, it does. And what I want to say about this Senate Bill 40 and this Parents' Choice Act, and kind of how they're trying to pull in the private and homeschooling so that the government can have more control over that. Basically, when the Great Reset is happening, as it is now, and when it is finally enacted, what do you have to keep it going? This generation. You have to have the kids. Yes. And so that's what this is. They can do all these things now. Okay, we die. If they're all conservative, strong, Christian, it's not going to last. So we have to go after the children.
That's right.
And it's interesting because, again, ignorance is not a defense, and they're running out of chances. But you look at, when Eric Mackey is claiming that he's got in the Parents' Choice Act, well, they're using state money, which actually you gave to the government.
Which the state has no money.
Yeah, it's yours.
It's yours.
Right.
But you're using state money, and so we should have a say in it. That's just backwards thinking. That is Great Reset, control, stifle, make all one. Like, that's the goal, is for everybody to be the same. Everybody's education to be the same. Everybody's housing to be the same. Everybody's car to be the same.
Everybody to think exactly the
Everybody
same.
think the same. There's no
Except for the people at the
individuality.
very, very top.
Right.
They get
the
to
self-appointed
the
denizens
elites
of policy.
Okay, so that's a great question. So you're saying that the Senate's passing this social emotional learning. We've talked about Common Core before. I still think that some Alabamians still think, well, we don't have Common Core. I don't even know why people are upset about that.
Because we wrote our own standards, don't you?
Yeah, it's
Gotta get rid of it.
such a fib.
It's awful.
It is such a fib. Such lies to the people of Alabama. But then, so I say, okay, I want to save my kids. Is there legislation that says I can get my kids out of the schools and get away from this thing? I can send my kids to private school if I want to. I can homeschool if I want to. That's kind of what the promise was of this School Choice Act, or vouchers or credits or whatever it was or is, right?
It's quickly falling apart, though.
But what has happened to it?
So what has happened is, apparently it's still in committee, and Allison is the most up to date on all of the things. But this one is in the House and the Senate, and it is apparently in committee. I don't know.
Okay.
It was beautiful in its original form. But what they did, because this is what they always do, is we need to add testing. So if you're going to if you're going to homeschool, of course they dropped that portion, but if you're at a private school, possibly a parochial school, and you're going to use this money, the only way we'll know if it's working is if you take a test that all the government school kids are taking. And then we'll decide if they pass, then you can get the money. And if not, well, what if not?
Right.
Well, then you'll have to go back to our school. I mean, they haven't said that, but isn't that the point? Is to intervene and to bring you back, because see, your experiment failed, and we're gonna have to take the money that you gave us back and pretend like you never gave it to us in the first place.
Are they really going to give the test to both sets of students? Because my experience usually is they really don't want to give tests to the public school kids.
No, they don't. I loved your idea that you said a few minutes ago before we came in here about giving tests. Like our son was homeschooled for a while, and he played sports, and we were at the beginning of this whole homeschool situation, and they're like, we're going to give you a test. I'm like, give us a test.
Right.
I know what he's learning.
Right.
He's doing well.
We're going to pass.
Like, it's fine. But they were like, but you have to test. I mean, come on, Dr. Evil, it's fine.
Right.
But that's what they're trying to do, and that's what they did with this Parents' Choice Act, is take away the freedom, and the special interest got their hands on several people. Am I correct? They received some money. And then it changed. Oh, now we have to have a testing element of the Parents' Choice Act.
Which the testing, my kids are all in public school, and the testing means nothing. Like they take these tests at the school. Like you don't get kicked out of school. You don't get taken out. I mean,
you still get promoted.
You still get promoted. It's really, but what this bill and this amendment to the bill would do is basically a backdoor to controlling the curriculum. And they did drop the homeschooling component. But originally it was for homeschooling and private school, because if you have to take this test to pass, then if you're at a classical Christian school and you're taking Roman history in 8th grade, in 8th grade at public school, we're studying U.S. history. Well, you're not going to pass that. So it's really the way they come in to control.
So they make sure that you're doing the same curriculum. And here's the other thing.
Which takes away all the freedom that they're supposedly giving us.
Right. And which set of history? Okay, so now we have critical race theory, and we're kind of getting down in the weeds. So if it asks, maybe the public school question says, was George Washington a great first president? True or false?
Oh, wow. That's good.
And your homeschool kid says, true, baby, I got it. And the public school curriculum actually said, well, actually, he's a terrible person. Yeah. He wasn't a very good guy. He owned slaves. Yes. So that what I'm saying is, which viewpoint are you getting? What was one of the greatest movements in American history? And somebody says, well, one of the great revivals where the country, came together and people got saved, and people started taking care of the poor and all that. And they're like, no, it was the labor movement of the 1880s. You see what I'm saying? How do you pass their test? When their test is based on their curriculum, their worldview,
standards,
which are Common Core.
Interesting enough, the state social studies books are all up for renewal. They have to, and I think they pushed it back a year. But like that curriculum is always changing. Are we going to adopt 1619 stuff? I don't know.
Somebody will give us money to do it, I bet you.
Yeah. So this whole thing is interesting because it's almost Sarah Palin, putting lipstick on a pig, because great, we would have choice. We still have Common Core. We still have tenured teachers. We still have all these really bad, we still have the Alabama Department of Education, which needs to go.
Preach that.
All these really bad policies and curriculums and things in place. I mean, I guess it's a step, like we're filling up one of the holes in the boat, but we still got gushing. We are spending more per student than we ever have, and we're like 52nd in math. I mean, we are plummeting. And I mean, I even look at my own kids, and I read, and like my freshman in high school still will not start a sentence with a capital letter. And I'm like,
right?
How did you even make it? You should be in kindergarten. I mean, it's bad.
It is.
It's bad. I don't know if he does that just to make me mad or what, but like,
no, it's true.
We got issues.
But do the elites, when I say the elites, I mean the people who are for the New World Orders, the Great Resets, do they really care if your children are classically educated? Do they really care if they can actually look at 2 or 3 pieces of information and deduct, hey, this ought to work together?
No.
Do they want that, or do they just want someone who will
They want a robot.
Do whatever they want and do whatever task, turn this bolt, pick this thing.
Yeah.
That's it. And in any of the higher thinking, any of those kinds of things, I used to say they want workers, they don't want competitors.
Correct.
And we're seeing it before our eyes. But what gets me is we're Alabama. We should be looking out for us, for Alabama kids. The legislature should be looking out for Alabamians. And now we're 10 years into, at least 10, of just, no, we'll just do what they tell us. We want to just be like everybody else. When under the old Alabama standards, we were doing well and improving, and we flushed them.
Gone.
To get Common Core standards. And now we're going the next step with social emotional learning, and it seems almost as if there's no one there to say, whoa, hold up, we're not going to do these things.
But I think if you understand the Great Reset as a whole, it all makes sense. And I'm going to try and put it together because it's like I told y'all before when we were walking in here, it's like I almost know too much that it's hard to get out, but I'm going to try. And what we were talking about, no, they don't care. In fact, they want to get rid of Christianity in every religion, and they want to get rid of, your family unit. They want to get rid of genders because, well, everything should be fluid. You should just be whatever you are. They want to get rid of nationalities where, why do you think immigration is such a big thing right now? They're just flooding countries they don't want any national identity. They want this new world order, this one world government. And really, Klaus Schwab is the mastermind behind this. He's a mechanical engineer and just a brilliant man. But back in 1971, he started the World Economic Forum. And you can go online. It's weforum.org. And it has all this. Like, the Great Reset is here. It is not conspiracy. It is on a website. They tell you who is partnering with them. They tell you their plans. They tell you what they want to do. It is there. And it's scary. And we're seeing it in Alabama. It is happening now. So Schwab starts this organization in 1971, and it's basically an economic model. He calls it stakeholder capitalism or communist capitalism, which
he
is
said that part.
That's what
they avoided that part of the term, didn't they?
Well, when he wrote a book in 71, or when he was first starting, and that's what he calls it, stakeholder.
I do have one question.
Yeah.
How does little mechanical engineer guy Klaus Schwab? I mean, I could go start an organization today. Scott and everybody for a greater planet, and nobody's coming to my meetings.
You don't have his money.
So he was already super wealthy, or is there another darker group? And he's kind of the...
I think yes and yes.
Okay.
He starts this, it's a extension of Marxism, of economic Marxism, where think of China. Like, literally, they want to turn the entire world into China. And if you've ever been to China, it's bizarre because they have like Gucci and Prada and all these very capitalistic, extravagant things. But only a very small population percentage can reach that. Everything else is controlled. There's all the other people. And it is weird because you do have somewhat of capitalism, but it's all controlled by the government, only if the government wants it to be there. And so he started this group, which meets in Davos, Switzerland every year. And really the Great Reset kind of came about in 2017. And this is where, Francis Collins and all that, he comes with
from last week.
From last week, when we talked about him last week. Religious leaders like the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles,
Trudeau,
Bezos, Zuckerberg, all of Hollywood pretty much. I mean, who else?
All the
important people
are there.
Trudeau, Angela Merkel, the Prime Minister of Germany, Biden, Obama, like everybody shows up there, and they basically came up with this plan. And what we are seeing happening right now in America. The main pillar of how they implement this plan is they get private companies. It's called a public-private partnership.
Okay.
They get private companies to do the dirty work, and they get private companies to do the things that the government can't, like censor misinformation from Facebook, Twitter.
Because the First Amendment applies to the government.
They can't do it.
So the private companies, and then all of our little conservative buddies run out and go, but it's a private company. It's a private company.
Right.
That's right.
And defend and help move
man.
it on. Yeah. Right.
So like the mask and vaccine mandates.
Okay.
The federal government can't do that. So who did they rely on? They relied on private entities, on school systems. They rely on Verizon is part of it, and all their 5G towers. Verizon goes in and puts up so they can connect all their little semiconductor IoT, Internet of Things is what it's called, and this is where it's going to get.
Right.
But it's like how your cell phone, everything has a chip in it. They can trace you all the way down. So Verizon's going to put up all these 5G towers so that the government can track you where you're going. That's where digital ID, the vaccine.
The mesh gets tighter. Right.
The vaccine passports. Have you crossed somebody that has COVID? It's all, okay, well, we're going to get Verizon to do that.
Well, they're going to keep me safe, though, aren't they? Because then they're going to tell me that I walked by somebody who had COVID so I can panic and think I'm about to die and go get tested, right? It's all for my good.
And then they're going to sweep in and save you.
Yes.
And, don't forget, and they're going to give your kid tech for their school. And what school's going to turn that down?
That'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll get some
Isn't that
free
great?
stuff. Yes.
And Lego, who doesn't love Lego? They're going to come in and they're going to go, oh, yeah, we've got these things for your school. Who turns that down?
Right.
It's really, and I was watching a TED Talk about social emotional learning just to kind of educate myself, because I'm like, okay, TED Talk, we're going to see what the other side is thinking. He literally says in this TED Talk, we are doing this in our classrooms because according to the World Economic Forum, this is what they're going to be looking for in employees in 2040.
No. Say it's not so.
No, and I'll post it. And he talks about how that's what the metric is that's we're looking at what the World Economic Forum says we're going to need. And so we're going to implement
the
social
state does
learning.
that. Get it back to Alabama again. Every time there's some sort of educational thing in the state, the big business community comes along and says, well, that's what we're going to need. We're trying to make sure that there's employment. We want people to have jobs. That's what we're for. This is the kind of person we're looking for. And I'm always saying, well, yeah, but weren't y'all lobbying for, whips for buggies before the car was invented?
I mean, come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's always couched as we're going to help you.
Right.
We're going to help your children. This is the kind of job they're going to need. They're going to have these kind of skills.
Right.
Right.
Because, and this is where I am with like our state legislature. I'm like, okay, so maybe you were not as evil thinking as I was in your thoughts of why they're doing it. I'm like, what if they're really all compromised? What if they're part of this? It trickles down. You look at our school boards and our boards of education and maybe not so much in Alabama, but around the country, like what's happening in California. Like the Great Reset has made it to our local level. I don't know. I mean, maybe this is what they want. Maybe this is what they're after. And it's a terrifying thought.
It's very terrifying because what we've done, and I repeat what I said last week, we need our Ron DeSantis, number one. We need leaders who will stand up, but we also need people who it takes time to become educated about these. And if let's just say for each senator and each legislator, we had that many people that said, you know what? We're going to help educate you about what these bills are. That's one way to kind of stop what's happening. But we're in it right now. Like we're in it. So we have the technology. We're tracking our kids. They're tracking our phones. They say it in live and living color. They don't care anymore. If they call you a conspiracy theorist, that's fine. They don't care. They know what they're doing. They have the money. They have all of these people that are on board to completely take away your freedom, to take away your privacy, to take away your rights. And like you said, look at China. Or I'm reading, I've read Nothing to Envy before. I'm reading another book by Yeonmi Park, who escaped North Korea. And this is exactly like North Korea. They wake up. As a community, they clean their apartment houses. There's a song that comes on when they're supposed to clean. They take lunch at the same time. They only have one channel that they can watch. They only have songs that they're allowed to sing in school. This is exactly what they want because they want robots. They don't want thinkers. So if you think this Parents' Choice Act is no big deal and who cares about taking a test, well, that means that the kids who think differently, and even the kids who are in public school that think differently, are in trouble because they don't want you to think differently. And so they need this experiment to fail and to parents to say, oh, forget about the Parents' Choice Act. Don't worry about it. We don't want to do the testing. Forget it. We'll just go back to the way things were.
Right.
And that's not okay because they want to invade our family lives with their propaganda. It's what it is. And like, take away our freedom, take away our privacy, and it's Marxist, and it's never worked, and we need to do our homework to find out that every single other situation where Marxism and communism has tried, it has failed, people have died. We had better do our homework on this because it's here. It's here. We voted for it in the Senate. It's now in the House, and now the Parents' Choice Act may or may not work. Who knows what's going to happen with it? But if they wear us down long enough, and if the special interest group can keep up the money front and say, oh, don't worry about it, we're going to let this die. And then we, the people, are like, we're screwed. Every time we're screwed.
Yeah, the problem is we don't have anywhere to go. There's no place to hide. There's no other choices, and that's my disappointment in the state of Alabama and the leadership all the way to the governor's office is, look, we can be different. Why do we have to do it like everybody else? Be the last beacon of freedom in the United States. I don't care if all the other states decide to go along with the Great Reset. Let's take our stand. Of course, I've always been saying, look, let's take our stand on God's word. Let's take our stand on morality. Let's say, you know what, we're going to do it our way here, and if you don't like it, come make us. And maybe they will. But take the stand, because it's hard for individuals to take a stand.
It is.
We've got to depend on our government, our elected officials. They are our magistrates. They should stand for truth. They should. They absolutely
Then
should.
everybody that's in Montgomery right now has to go.
Everybody? The problem is, even like leadership. You were talking about
Maybe
leadership
not
earlier.
everybody.
But
The
most
problem is
everybody.
Can stay.
The leadership's elected. You know what I'm saying?
They are elected.
So a bunch of those folks are for the people who are doing that. And then it's easy to hide. I didn't have any choice. The leadership made me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, didn't you put the leadership in charge? You know, we understand that in Washington, they pick Nancy Pelosi. Well, we pick people who think these kinds of things are crazy.
And how long can we give them a pass?
And how long
I think
can we say
that time's already over.
You know what? How long can we say it's all fun and games because they're still those people and we're
Mm-hmm.
still the random, unwashed masses, right? That's
Right.
what we are.
We're the raggedy multitudes.
We're the raggedy multitudes until they're not either. And then it's not fun and games anymore. But until they experience what we're experiencing, that's when things will change. Or we have to change.
But during one of the special sessions that we went to in Montgomery, I don't know when it was, it made me so mad. There was a mask mandate. Okay, so McCutcheon, Speaker of the House, McCutcheon has this mask mandate on the House floor and in the gallery. Okay, and literally security is coming up to us telling us to pull up our masks. This is towards the end. This is like December. We're all over it. We're just done with it. Meanwhile, we look down, not maybe 10 legislators on the floor have masks on. Maybe. They're all like high-fiving and hugging and talking. Nobody has a mask. Meanwhile, the people in the gallery are being harassed
Right.
to no end. And that is what we're dealing with.
You were supposed to be thankful that they allowed you in the building.
Seriously,
Don't
because
you
the year
know?
before they didn't.
Right.
But I'm like, this is the problem.
That's right.
And literally one of the legislators came up to the gallery and said to a person that I was with, they were asking why they didn't have to wear a mask. And he was like, well, there's got to be some perks to the job. And I'm like, you? That's
I
why
have so
people
many
hate
words.
Montgomery.
That's
Right.
right. But that's it. I mean, they're them. But when that select few that meets in Davos and they have appointed themselves, so either we're going to be ruled by people who have appointed themselves, unelected rich people that everybody says they're against. Apparently right now that's uncool to be for the job creators, okay, until you need a job and then it's
Right.
cool. But we're either for those people and we're going to let this go. And Alabama Senate, y'all like brought this in. Thank you so much. We're either going to let those people rule us or we're going to go back to a biblical foundation with 10 commandments and that's it and live by those. Do you want to be really free or do you want to be free as long enough as they decide that you're free? Because right now what they're doing, you look at China, you look at North Korea, they're tracking every single thing you do. There are cameras everywhere. How many 100 million cameras? Like it was a staggering amount of cameras that they're using to track people's movements. Use a QR code every time you get on the bus. They know where you are. You go into your smart house. You do anything they don't like. They know about it.
Right.
And so that's what we're going
docks your
to.
social credit
It
score.
docks your social credit score, and this is all based on social credit score.
That's
And if
what
you're
we're-
a good little person,
yes,
you can still travel.
that's
you can
the
go see
whole
grandma.
bottom line.
But if not, if you're rebellious or you question them, then you don't get to go places. You don't get to get your things. And then you have.
Yep.
Do they still have money in China, or is it all digital yet?
I have no idea. But let me
They
tell you
still
what
have money.
they also have for businesses. What is it called? Environmental, social governance. So you have to manage your carbon footprint. This is how they're tracking businesses.
In China?
It'll trickle down to us.
Okay.
This is what's starting out very slowly and quietly, and this is what's getting pushed back finally. 2 states are pushing back, and the rest of us need to follow along. But this is how they're docking businesses. You look at the truckers in Canada. You take away their ability to make a livelihood, what's going to happen? Some of them are going to go, you know what, forget it, I'm going home. I need to make money for my family.
Right.
These businesses who, we're not going to give you a loan to run your business because your carbon footprint is not good. So what are you going to get? You're going to get business conformity because who doesn't want to take care of their family?
Right.
So they're taking away your ability to even provide for your family.
That's that public
That's
private
terrifying.
Because they're going to look and say, oh, you were part of the trucker convoy. We can't give you that loan because you rebelled against the government. maybe January 6th. Like that's
Right,
kind of the thing.
right.
We're shutting, and look at January 6th and look at this trucker envoy and how they got information. What they do, they went to all the cell phone, they went to Apple. The government doesn't have the right to do that. But Apple just handed it
Gives
over.
it to them.
Yeah,
And
bank
credit card
accounts.
information.
Who used bank accounts in Washington D.C. that day? I mean, who used their credit card? Here you go. And it's this really sinister, ugly, incestuous.
Well, okay. And so I
Partnership.
saw someone in one of the businesses, and it might have been in this New World Order book from 1991, which is what, 30 years ago.
We were so clueless.
And it said one of the things they do is they say, well, maybe you're the big business. Okay, you don't want to give us that information. That's fine. That's fine. Have y'all been audited?
That's
Exactly.
right. Exactly.
Has
100%.
anybody come in to look and see what you're doing? Are you hiring the right kind of people? You could be being racist. I think
Yeah.
there's a very good chance. Well, look at you, you might be racist. And so some of these companies, even if they wanted, they're big, but if they wanted to say no, they can't hardly say no. Wasn't it the little bank and trust that we were talking about that
Minnesota.
that closed down the Pillow guys?
Mike Lindell.
Yeah, one of the
Yep.
things they said was something about the FBI asking questions or might be coming around someday
Yeah.
or something. They didn't dream that up.
No.
They're
Social
like, wait a
credit
minute,
system at work.
somebody said we need to do this. We need to separate ourselves because we don't want this problem. Because no one can survive when the federal government comes in and says, we're going to check your hiring. It's going to cost you millions of dollars. We're going to look through all your bank accounts. Then we're going to see if you've been racially biased on your hiring.
Right.
Then we're going to see if you've been biased against genders. Then we're going to see about your carbon footprint. And then we're going to see if you've been polluting anything. And you're going to have to turn us over all. And then we might have to interview all your people. And then boom, they get you on one thing. And you know what?
So-
Now you're a criminal.
This peer pressure that we're seeing in business is exactly what's about to be happening in our classrooms. And our Senate just helped usher that in. And that is scary.
It's terrifying. That was exactly what I was going to say.
Oh,
Like
say it again.
No, I mean, it's exactly right. I mean, same brain. It's exactly the same thing. Peer pressure out there, peer pressure in here. The quote to go and close us to get to your headlines is this. I found it from Abraham Lincoln. He said the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next.
And
So what do we want to do?
And they've been taking that to heart for, I don't know, maybe back when they took prayer to schools and said you can't teach even a class on the Bible, or heaven forbid you have a quote, you can't have the 10 Commandments without a big fight. And then they took morality out and they took truth out and then said, you know what, we'll put our version of morality and truth. I remember when another thing from the legislature, they came around and they gave us copies of this book. And I don't even know if I have it anymore, but it was to teach character. Remember when character
Yes, I
learning
do.
was big? So you open the book and you're like, oh, that's a good one. I mean, that's a good one. That's a good way to be kind, treat people. But it was all secular. Some of them almost word for word quotes out of the Bible, maybe word for word quote of Jesus, but it'd be attributed to Allison, who was, some great philosopher from whatever. It'd be something else to Scott. So you go through this whole thing, how to be good, how to be a good little person, with no Christianity whatsoever. And I thought, man, they are purposefully saying, well, we want you to be really good and nice,
Right.
but you don't really know why you're good and nice. There's no reference to God, none of that kind of stuff. So they've replaced one set of morality, moral rules with another.
That's right.
Do y'all want to do headlines
We're
today?
about to do that again.
Oh, no.
I mean, I have some kind of funny. If
think
we
we
want
need
to
to, like,
switch,
lighten
yeah,
it
I was
up.
gonna say it might be good. I have a really good exercise for us to start my headlines with,
Okay.
Okay.
and it goes back to the classroom. Except we're going back to middle school. So
I get my gum back out from under the table.
yeah, get
I
your
stuck it
sweetheart
on there.
ropes. I want y'all to think back to middle school. Just close your eyes and think about those days and give me some adjectives. What do you think of when you think of middle school?
Zits.
Okay. That is not what I was going for.
I was going for square pizza. Did y'all have square rectangular
Oh, we
pizza?
had square pizza. Yes.
It was awesome.
And Grandma's cookies. You remember that?
We didn't have
the
Grandma's
packet of
cookies.
the cookies. They were
Yeah.
Oh, y'all had
Delicious. Those are
packets.
good.
We
We're
had
clearly-
Reese cups that were square.
Oh,
It
we
might
didn't
been
get
a
to
big
have the
tray.
Reese cups.
Well, that was
didn't get-
before everybody had
We had
peanut butter
square
allergy.
pizza.
So good.
All the peanut butter allergy kids died apparently when I was in middle school, and they just because they didn't exist. I don't know what happened to them.
They didn't. I don't know when we've gotten
When did that
such
start?
snowflakes.
Oh my
You
gosh.
can't have gluten. Actually, I have a friend who's really gluten intolerant.
And good,
And I
hey,
know
they-
people
and we
have
had
peanut
good chicken
allergies, I'm
fingers.
sorry.
Remember?
Delicious
Because they
chicken
fried them.
fingers.
You're too young. You probably only had
And
baked chicken
I don't
fingers.
Good
remember.
fries. You had
Yes,
good
'cause
fries.
they were fried.
No one cared. We didn't put calories on it. We enjoyed the good life.
And you were full. It was
We're
awesome.
14 years
Okay,
old.
I was not going towards middle school
Sorry.
cafeteria.
Okay. I'm
I was
sorry.
thinking
We had
more
zips
like
and food. That's pretty
Awkward
much it, isn't it?
relationships.
yeah, awkward relationships.
Okay.
Dramatic.
Mean Girls.
That's
Insecure,
girl stuff. I
Okay.
didn't even know any of that.
fighting.
Okay, yes.
You know,
So
like
thankful I'm a boy.
awkward. All right, y'all totally just bombed your assignment. Because now it's not, I'm thinking zits and pizza, which I don't know. I'm about to talk about Katie Britt and Mo Brooks.
Okay.
I don't know, but there is a very interesting twist on the Senate race, which we talked about last week. And it reminds me of middle school.
Oh, girl.
Like,
Really?
it is the most catty, dramatic,
I'm in.
kind of funny,
Okay.
but not really. So everybody's fighting over Donald Trump and his affections.
I love Donald Trump more than you.
Oh, I thought you were saying that to me. Okay.
No.
No, they just want his attention. They want his endorsement. And
Yes.
as much people want to hate on Donald Trump, there are some serious
He's a
fights
kingmaker.
going on. Okay, so Katie Britt apparently has been trying to get his endorsement and come into his favor for a long while now. Okay. He's been a Mo Brooks supporter for as long as I can remember. He came out, you know, Mo Brooks kind of fumbled the Coleman rally, but Trump stuck behind him. Actually,
Mo's actually going to turn out to be right, though, when he said, hey, there's nothing we can do about 2020. We probably need to look forward to 2024. And I was like, don't say it. But it was,
I think what
'Cause
he
we
meant
can't.
was
he meant we're
Okay.
not going to get some overturned thing. It's not
Right.
going to fix it, which he was right.
that's what he meant. Like President
were all-
Trump isn't coming back. Does that mean that we don't look into it? No, we need to
Right.
look and see what
That's
happened.
right.
But he never quite got those words out. So anyway, Trump Jr., Donald Jr. actually tweeted last week again, you know, that Mo Brooks has Donald Trump support. Well, Katie Britt apparently found herself in Mar-a-Lago last week.
That happens to me regularly. Sometimes I just wake up and
You know,
I'm
me too.
wandering
Well,
around
there,
Mar-a-Lago.
there.
She just poof was there, and
Yes.
but there was an article that came out, and I don't know if it was leaked or what, but it made it sound like she had been summoned by President Trump for this meeting. Okay, and but what I heard was she literally was there on behalf of, like, with someone else, and just almost like happened to run into Donald Trump. They said hello,
Right.
but somebody kind of pitched it as this big meeting. So there's an article that comes out. This is Katie Britt has this meeting, whatever.
Right.
Apparently it bombs. Her interaction with Trump bombs. And let's see.
So did her campaign
Okay.
put it out like,
Yes, her
I was
campaign.
summoned to Mar-a-Lago and I saw the president.
Yes, her campaign kind of pitched it, I think, in this article that, like, there was this big meeting and to try and put Mo Brooks on the defense. Well, it didn't go so well. So this was Mo Brooks's campaign's response. This is the second time that Katie Britt has tried to get support from Donald Trump and has failed both times. The president has assured me this week that he is all in for Mo Brooks. Whatever she said to him, we appreciate it.
Gosh.
That's
Okay.
pretty good.
All right.
So then
Okay.
Katie Britt's spokesperson, Sean Ross, came back. And y'all, this is the most bizarre thing. In response to that, he says that Mo Brooks is totally unhinged. And if Congressman Brooks truly cared about President Trump or the America First agenda, he would do the honorable thing and drop out of the race already.
What? What?
It's going bad in the Brit campaign. I'm telling you. When they start saying those kinds of things, the wheels are coming off.
I mean, is that not bizarre?
That is so weird. What? Like, I don't even have any words.
That's not the normal kind of spin that you use.
No.
That's like, y'all just need to quit.
Y'all, I mean, what? Can you imagine, like, a grown
on,
man
man.
saying to another grown man, a sitting congressman, like, and the article says Sean Ross demands Mo Brooks drop out of the race.
That's so seventh grade.
So I just
Oh,
think
that's
it's middle
painful.
school. But I love Trump. No, he loves me. No, but apparently after the whole thing said and done, Mo Brooks got from Trump a fundraiser in Mar-a-Lago in April.
That's good. That's good.
So the Brit campaign lost.
I think the
Big
whole.
time.
I
So
think the
hey,
whole
in
Mo
terms of
Brooks thing-
seventh grade, we go.
burn.
That's what we would
It'd be
do.
toast.
That is good.
Straight up 90s, baby.
I do think it's interesting that Mo Brooks, the whole, the evolution of the Brooks-Trump relationship. So Mo Brooks was a Ted Cruz guy, I think, when the presidential, and so they keep running these. I do have another question. These little political PACs that aren't supposed to have anything to do with the candidates,
Right.
how do they get so much good footage that is clearly recorded for an advertisement from the campaign to run a third-party ad that's not supposed to have anything to do with the campaign?
I'll tell you how it goes.
Okay,
Hey, we're not here. The camera you see, look away.
right.
Look away. We're not here.
We have 2 cameras here. You're doing your ads.
We may even have 3 cameras
Whoa,
here.
I've never thought about
You
that.
just got that?
Like, you know, Mike Durant's ad where he's
Yeah.
standing there in
Like,
his flight suit.
I'm Mike
but it's from
Durant.
the Alabama Patriots
But it's from
PAC.
somebody he's not supposed to work with.
That they don't have cameras there filming him because it's illegal.
Dang it.
I know.
That's so
We're going to
smart.
ask them
It
questions if we can ever get them on the
Yeah.
show.
Whoa.
Yeah, tell us about it. How does that work, guys?
It's interesting, though.
I don't know. It's a great question.
Maybe they call the campaign and say, do you happen to have any footage of Mike Durant in a
Yeah.
flight suit
That
standing
you can
in
just
front
give
of
us
A field.
because it was completely free, because you didn't have to pay for it and you don't own it or
Or,
anything.
you know, any other Senate or House candidate in Alabama with a gun
Right.
and a great
Yeah,
belt
that's
buckle.
And a
So
tractor.
Yeah,
Gun,
absolutely,
tractor,
with a
dogs.
tractor.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Those
but-
are clearly ads produced for the candidate,
Right.
and then a third party that's not supposed to have anything to do with the candidate is running them.
Do
But
they leave them in
maybe-
their mailbox or something? I don't
Because
know.
it's different if you just run,
Morris
hey, be for Katie Britt, we're,
Right.
you know,
Right.
there's a picture of a sign.
Are we
But
sure that wasn't paid for by Mike Durant?
I don't know
Senate?
which one is which. It's,
We're gonna
it's
have
all
to.
weird.
We might have to retract that.
Yeah,
But
I don't know
that's
which
an
one you're
interesting
talking
thought.
about, but I'm pretty
knows?
sure this.
We'll
I'm pretty
find out.
sure I have some
We'll do
questions
some investigating.
on some of those. But the whole Mo Brooks thing being against Trump and hey, he's not going to do what he says, and they're running these ads that say it's not so, Mo. Well, a lot of Alabamians, even Alabamians who voted for Trump in the general election, were like, I don't know if he's really going to do it. I like him. He's saying the right things, and people became, supporters.
But so,
So I don't think
that
he's
whole
real. I don't think they're
thing
driving people away like they think they are.
is Katie Britt in that ad where she's basically calling out Mo Brooks for not being Trumpy enough, right? Mm-hmm. Because he didn't vote for Trump.
Now, was that her ad or was that one of the third parties?
Well, anyway,
Right. But it
Somebody
questions
was attacking-
whether you're Trumpy enough.
right. But Mo Brooks has Trump's endorsement and Katie Britt has nothing. So obviously she's not Trumpy at all.
Not at
She's
all.
called. I don't know. I just don't think it works out. Like
don't
you
think-
said, I don't
no.
think it.
Well, but you know what the deal is we saw Mo being Mo in the beginning and saying what he said in Live and Living Color, and he didn't back away from it, and then he was slowly won over like a lot of people were. So I think,
And then was one of the guys who was there when the darkest
Yes.
days came.
That's right.
When all the fair weather friends ran
That's right.
off.
He had to be. He began to own his love of Trump,
Yes.
and we saw it happen, and we can't unbelieve what we saw because we
Correct.
saw it. But he didn't shy away from what he said in the beginning. He didn't try to hide it, and that is refreshing and rare in a character and in a candidate. It really is.
No matter how painful some of the ads may be.
Oh my word!
So
just do away
I
with
don't
all of
know.
them?
Yes.
Hey, field trip to Mar-a-Lago. That would
Let's
be
go.
fun.
That's-
Forget Lloyd.
Like
Hey.
I said,
In your airstream,
And
we can do
No, I
it.
think we could spring for like a really cheap want to get away.
they're
Southwest
$59 right now.
Yeah.
Is that what they are?
Yes, they are.
Okay, good deal. I'm glad
Just
y'all know.
checking.
That would be fun.
All right, ladies, thank y'all very much. It's been great.
Wait,
So,
wait.
What?
I have one more.
One more conspiracy theory?
No, one more.
Oh.
I have to because next week we're having John Merrill on the show.
Don't
Okay.
miss it.
Yes. So we have
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State John Merrill will be on here, our first interview ever. So it'll be interesting. But I want to do a follow up. Like, have y'all heard about all this ERIC stuff that's going down? The ERIC system
Yes.
for the voting,
Mm-hmm.
how they clean the vote. Okay. Little known fact, I'm pretty sure I was the one that started that whole debacle because we went to St. Clair County to the Republican Party Executive Committee meeting to hear Wes Allen and Mike Durant speak. I just asked Wes Allen, what he thought about an audit for 2020, and I asked him what his stance was on the ERIC system. Well, apparently it was right when all that was coming out, and he didn't really know much about the ERIC system, kind of caught him flat-footed. And so then because of that, he put out this statement saying that it was a George Soros Great Reset funded organization that started ERIC. That's when Merrill responded and basically took out Wes Allen, brought Will Ainsworth into it somehow. It was basically John Merrill said, y'all are all wrong. It's not Soros funded. It helps the state of Alabama a lot, and said Wes Allen didn't really know what he was talking about. He was just kind of spreading rumors. Misinformation. And he brought Will Ainsworth in by saying he was the freshman representative, or was he a senator?
He was a House member.
So, yeah, that carried that bill that approved the ERIC joining and funding. But anyway, 1819 News did a whole follow-up on it last week about the ERIC system, how it was started, and it's really interesting. They pitch it as this great, there are 31 states and D.C. that are involved in it. It's a way to clean up voter rolls, like dead people that have moved. And they say the benefit is you can cross-check with other states, if people are registered in multiple states. Right. The problem comes in is...
Sounds great.
For only $28,000, you can get all this. Right. Plus, there are other things that you can add on. But it really was started by the Pew Charitable Trust, which is originally was funded by Open Society, which is a George Soros funded. Okay. Well, John Merrill, his quote on the people that have a problem and question the involvement and the intentions of ERIC in this 1819 News article, the problem is... ignorant people, I guess that's us.
Yes.
Oh, wait, me. Ignorant people have information introduced to them. They get a toenail sliver piece of it, and they think it's enough to write a master's thesis because they heard somebody say that George Soros was supportive of ERIC and helped create it. And I'm like, okay, I don't think we're wrong based on the entirety of the beginning of this episode to question the involvement. And so it's going to be really these Secretary of State candidates. Wes Allen has said he will pull us out of ERIC.
Okay.
Wes Allen does not support an audit of 2020. Actually, I asked him about that, and he said he doesn't think there were any issues in Alabama in the 2020 election, for what that's worth. Ed Packard is quoted in the article, and he says he actually worked for John Merrill and in the Secretary of State's office for 25 years. And he says he was there when they brought in ERIC. He likes the system, but he says he will listen to the people and kind of take that feedback.
Well, it's another one of those things. It sounds good, and if it's really doing that, great. But if it's doing some of the other things it's alleged to do, like not getting rid of people in certain places so that people have the ability to go vote for that person and those kinds of things. And there was a conservative organization with the Kansas something or another where the states were literally directly doing it themselves. And that one was beat out of existence by
Kansas cross-check
lawsuits or something. So the conservative, let's make it right version gets beat out of existence and leaves this one, which no one seems to have a problem with. It's that kind of stuff that bothers me.
Yeah. Well, and here's the real problem. When every 60 days, this information is shared, and they share between these states to this ERIC system. They share all your DMV information and your voting and registration information. There's like social security numbers, addresses, voting history, all that's just going across these 31 states. And they say, well, we encrypt it. I don't think we're ignorant and stupid to question the intentions of something that has association. Even if it wasn't, why do we need to outsource that job? So it's just interesting. Ed Packard says he would listen to the people. He is supportive of a 2020 audit. Jim Ziegler says he would totally get rid of ERIC, and he also supports a 2020 audit. So I don't know. Two big races happening with some big storylines that have some implications, even Great Reset implications there. So
I think, how about put a bow on it? The question is whether it's taking our freedom away in the classroom, taking our freedom away through social credit system, taking our freedom away from doing something that feels a little squirrely, is if you're not allowed to ask questions, you should have concerns.
Right. If you're looked down upon for just saying I have a question, that should make people worry. No doubt about it.
Yep.
This has been Alabama Unfiltered. We appreciate you being with us. Thank you, ladies, and hopefully you'll be with us again next week.